Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold a deep conversation, a rigorous analysis, an engaged lesson about everything going on in the world. This isn't superficial talking points. This isn't cable news talking points. This is a global classroom where we break stuff all the way down. And today, Night School starts off in a place that I wish we didn't have to. But we do. We do. We got to talk about this election, y'all. We got to talk about what's going on with Donald Trump. We got to talk about what's going on with Joe Biden. And specifically, we got to think about how this presidential election will impact the global community. President Biden will be meeting with American allies at the NATO summit on Tuesday in Washington. With the election only 4 months away, world leaders, not surprisingly, given what's going on, are preparing for what a second Trump presidency would look like. Politico is reporting that some of America's allies are consulting Trump advisors and holding secret meetings in preparation for his return. Officials in Brussels are said to be shoring up long-term military support for Ukraine. They want to do it now because they feel like Donald Trump will just get in the way. But Ukraine isn't the only game in town. Turkish officials have looked at Project 2025 to see if they can gain any insight into Donald Trump's plans for Syria. Now, according to Politico, ministers from Germany and Canada have met with Republican governors in Atlanta, Austin, and Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, why would they do that? Well, they're laying the groundwork should Trump win in November and carry out the extreme right agenda. Now, Donald Trump has said, by the way, that Project 2025 ain't his baby. He's saying that that's not his playbook, that that's not what he's driven by. I don't know if he's lying. I don't know if he doesn't know what's going on, or if he really just happens to have a super right-wing crazy agenda that is disconnected from the Heritage Foundation's crazy right-wing extremist agenda. I don't know. What do y'all think? Raise your hand in the chat if you think that Donald Trump is going to follow Project 2025's playbook if he gets back to the White House. Now, think about Donald Trump, and we've learned this. Oh, Lord, have we learned this. Donald Trump is unpredictable. There's no way to know exactly what Donald Trump is going to say. There's no way to know exactly what Donald Trump is going to do. He's threatened to withdraw the United States from NATO. Our allies realize that personal relationships are needed really to get anything done with the president. That got to be your homie in order to make that thing happen. Here domestically, we see all kinds of efforts in his mind to do things like close the Department of Education or put more right-wing extremists on the courts. I mean, there's a way that with Donald Trump, you don't know what's going to happen. But what global leaders seem to believe, and I think they're right, is that the best thing you can do when dealing with Donald Trump is to be the last person who spoke to him. Basically, he's all over the place. He says what he says to everybody. He doesn't care who he talks to. He's going to make people happy and lie, or he's going to change his mind a million times because he doesn't have a political commitment. As I've always said, he doesn't want to change the world. He just wants to run the world. So the world is shaking. But this also tells you something about how the global community sees Joe Biden. They don't think he can win. They don't think he has the chops. They don't think he has the goods. They don't think he has the legs to make it to November. They don't think the American people are going to reelect him. And the debate 10 days ago or 11 days ago doesn't help. Because when Americans saw Joe Biden, they said, oh no, this is the worst debate performance ever. And when the world saw America respond, they said, one, America's right. Joe Biden looks past his prime and over the hill, but they also recognize that America is trending in the very similar direction, a very almost exact same direction as they were 8 years ago. And this is the scary part. I remember being in Israel, coming from I was in Israel doing some research. I remember being in a cab, and there was a driver who said to me, you know, you guys really having Donald Trump run for president? Why don't you have a real election? Hillary Clinton's going to win. And then I remember returning right before the election, maybe like a week or so before the election. And everybody was like, wait a minute, is Donald Trump going to be president? And I was still like, nah, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. But the world learned from that, because when I came back, and when I've traveled to other countries, they now note that moment and they note that trend as evidence of what's going to happen. When Donald Trump is engaged in mass lies and mad fascist rallies, and you know, when he seems Teflon to criticism, to scandal, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Can anybody beat this guy? I mean, the guy just got convicted of felonies. And he's only getting stronger. His fundraising only got bigger. His standing and Q rating only went higher. I mean, this says everything. So the world is like, look, we can't expect Americans to manage this for us, because y'all vote for anybody. And it's not just us. I mean, you could look at, you know, Melania. You could look at, I mean, look, you could look at Argentina. You could look at Brazil, Bolsonaro. You could look at Modi in India. I said Giorgia Meloni in Italy. You could look at, I mean, you could go down the list. A lot of countries are electing fascists, and right-wing populism is a thing, but the global community is bracing itself for it this time. They understand that America is a steward of global capitalism, of global imperialism, of the global economy, if you want to be more polite about it. And they understand that they have to make sure that America is well positioned, or that they're well positioned in relation to America, if they're going to survive and thrive. And so all that said, the world thinks Joe Biden's going to lose. The world thinks Donald Trump is the next president. That should tell y'all how urgent this moment is. And it should have us figure out not how to concede that point, not how to lay back and figure out how to respond to a Trump presidency, but to figure out how we can quickly change course, because history has shown us that we can change course. We can win this fight to stop Donald Trump from entering the White House. But it's going to take something different than a struggling Joe Biden. And y'all got to figure out, we got to figure out what that is. All right, y'all. Joe Biden, in his own defense, does not believe that he's done. Joe Biden is getting in his bag. He is defying, that's the word I got to use. He's defying all the calls to step aside. Instead, Joe Biden, that's probably Freudian, but Joe Biden is daring Democrats to try to remove him. Today, President Biden called in to Morning Joe, and he gave a piece of his mind. Here's a little slice of what he said.
I'm not going anywhere. I am not going anywhere. I wouldn't be running if I didn't absolutely believe that I am the best candidate to beat Donald Trump in 2024. We had a Democratic nominating process where the voters spoke clearly. I won 14 million of those votes, et cetera. So I just want, I'm not only believe that from the beginning, but I wanted to reassert it and demonstrate that it's true. And I'm going to be doing that all through this week and from here on.
Oh, those are strong words from President Biden as he called into his favorite morning talk show, Morning Joe. That should tell you something, too. Later in that same interview, President Biden was literally daring Democrats to challenge him at the Democratic National Convention if they think they can beat him. The president was defiant in the interview, saying that he was frustrated with the, quote, elites in the party who think they know so much more. And he said he's done explaining. He says the voters, they still want him. Now, this whole interview comes on the heels of a letter that was sent to congressional Democrats in which the president reiterated that the voters chose him and that he is the man for the job based on the fact that the voters chose him. He ended the letter stating, quote, the question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end. We have one job, and that is to beat Donald Trump. Now, this is rich for lots of reasons. First of all, Joe Biden comes out as and acts as if this is some top-down conspiracy to undermine his presidency. Oh my God, the elites are taking over. The elites are trying to silence us. Joe Biden refuses to read the polls. Joe Biden refuses to acknowledge the polls. He refuses to take the public temperature. What do I mean by that? In the Stephanopoulos interview 3 days ago, which we covered right here on the channel, Biden basically ignored what the polls say. He said, oh, there's a couple polls that are saying something, but the polls really favor me. When Stephanopoulos points out that the polls don't favor him, he says, oh, who cares about polls? Polls said I was going to lose last time. Yeah, that's not a good argument. The polls are moving in the wrong direction at the wrong time, President Biden. Also, there's never been a lower satisfaction rating for you, nor a lower public opinion of your abilities and your capacity. So in light of that, you got to look at this thing just a little bit differently. Why is this important right now? Well, it's important because President Biden is trying to make it seem as if it's only corporate honchos or party elites who are saying he shouldn't be president. No, it's everyday people who don't think you should be president. He's saying, well, I'm the nominee. Well, again, you're not the nominee. You won't be the nominee until after the nominating. And the nominating happens at the convention. So let's not pretend that the process is played out and people are being anti-democratic. No, this is part of the process. You don't like it, but it's part of the process. Let's also be honest here. You are a sitting president. You ran unopposed, basically. Yeah, Robert F. Kennedy had a cup of coffee with the Democratic Party, but let's be honest here. You ran unopposed in any serious way, Mr. President. So if Joe Biden ran unopposed, you can't really say, well, the people chose me again. The people didn't give a damn about anybody else on that ballot because they weren't presented as if anybody else on the ballot were an option. And so nobody else on the ballot ran because they knew they didn't have a shot. So in other words, look, Joe Biden won the states he was supposed to win. But let's not pretend it's because the public had options and chose you anyway. The public didn't think they had an option. The average person who votes in these Democratic primaries this time around would say, well, Joe Biden is the president. He's already our nominee. So what are they going to do? No one challenges the nominee. Not in presidential races. Y'all spend all your money doing that to Jamal Bowman, who's actually fighting for y'all. That's another story for another time. Anyway, the point is, Joe Biden is not the victim of some corporate elite or some political elite class who is trying to take away his presidency. Joe Biden is simply on the business end of the same instruments of power that make him president. The same corporate elites that make Joe Biden president made Hillary Clinton the nominee, made Obama the nominee, made Kerry the nominee. We could go on and on and on and on and on. And same thing for Trump and all of them. Bernie didn't get a fair shot. He was pushed out because the political elites didn't want him. I could say that about other political elites. Or other grassroots or insurgent candidates who got pushed out by political elites on the left and the right. The point being here is don't act suddenly like you're the grassroots people's champ, President Biden, and you're being pushed away by the powerful. You are the powerful. You are the embodiment. You are the epitome of America's political oligarchy and the corruption that comes from having such narrow, tight, powerful concentrations of political authority. That's what happens. You are it. So don't get mad now because those same people are saying, wait a minute, you can't win. You can't beat the man. And if you can't beat Donald Trump, maybe you should leave Joe Biden. That's what they're saying. And Joe Biden is saying, well, if you believe that, come challenge me. I dare you to challenge me at the convention. Well, he knows that the delegates are dedicated. He knows that it's going to be almost impossible to have any real disruption at the convention. The only time we've ever had a real conversation about disruption at the convention and going off the script was when it was when it was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Suddenly, when the black dude is running for president, now all of a sudden people say, well, you know, these delegates aren't delegates. These delegates can change their minds. These delegates aren't dedicated. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to have civics class when it came to Obama. But that's how America functions. At the end of the day, Joe Biden is saying, I dare you to try to challenge me at the convention because he knows he has those delegates in place. He knows he has the super delegates in place. And you come for the king, you best not miss. So they know that the only way that they challenge Joe Biden's nominations if they're sure they can beat him, and they're not sure they can beat him. So they're all going to fall in line. So ironically, it is the very political elites that Joe Biden is pointing to and scapegoating, or not scapegoating. Joe Biden is pointing to political elites saying they're the people bothering me right now. They're the ones picking on me. It's not everyday people. It's the political elites. Challenge me at the convention, see for yourself. But the political elites are the ones at the convention. Those are the ones going to save you. The truth is, if there were a general election right now that had multiple options other than Donald Trump, that were all seen as equally viable, you would probably lose, Mr. Biden. The truth is, if there were a Democratic nomination process right now that had Gavin Newsom on the ballot, Kamala Harris on the ballot, Josh Shapiro on the ballot, you on the ballot, you'd probably lose, Mr. President. So let's not pretend that you are some victim, that you're some organic grassroots insurgent candidate getting struck down by the instruments of power. I say again, you are the instruments of power. And if you don't pay attention to the polls, and if you don't listen to the people and step aside, Mr. Biden, you're the one who's going to be responsible for 4 more years of Donald Trump. Anyway, if you're just joining us, come hang out with us more. You're going to do this every night. We got a lot of conversation going on every night. We talk politics, we talk culture, we talk sports. We are thoughtful, we are smart, but we break it down in a way that everybody can understand. And when we come back, I got to break something else down for y'all. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to talk about a journalist, or at least an interviewer, a radio host, who got fired from her job for doing an interview with Joe Biden in a way that the radio station didn't like. It says more about the Democrats than it does about her, though. I'll tell you about it when we come back. All right, family, welcome back to Night School. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't hit the like button. All right, already. Let the world know. Let the YouTube algorithms know that we matter. Also, let us know where you're calling in from in the chat. I want people to understand that this really is a global community. So right now, right with the city you're coming in, right the country you're coming in, right the village you're coming in from. We want people to know where they're from, but also where their colleagues are from, where their comrades are from, where their classmates are from. We want y'all to break all that down. Anyway, let's get to this next story, because this story is personally frustrating me. Black Philadelphia radio host Andrea Lawful Sanders is out of a job. You know why? She didn't come to work late. She ain't steal nothing. It wasn't a budget issue. She got fired after interviewing the president of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden. Who gets fired after getting the biggest interview, maybe not just of the year, but maybe in the station's history? Well, this woman did. She is now the former host of WURD 96.1 FM's The Source. And she left the station after admitting even that she used 4 of the 8 suggested questions that she received from the Biden campaign. In other words, she got contacted by the Biden campaign. They said, we want to do an interview. She said, sure. Then they sent her 8 questions that she should ask. And she asked 4 of them 8. Now, WURD's president said that the station was not involved in any negotiations for the interview. They had nothing to do with it. Andrea says the same thing. And they issued a statement titled Accountability, Access, and a Path Forward. Why Black Media Matters. The statement goes on to say, WURD remains an independent voice that our audience can trust and will hold elected officials accountable. Now, Andrea Lawful Sanders says the station was aware of the interview, that they ran promos for the interview, that they approved the interview, and then they aired the interview. She also says that she worked with the White House on questions and topics that were important to her listeners. In other words, she's saying, I ain't just take questions and go with them. I groomed this in a way that would be responsible to the Black community in Philadelphia and around the country. She says, quote, there is no world where I would attempt to deceive my community, marginalize the lived experiences of listeners, or minimize the profound respect I have for Black journalists and Black media. Lawful Sanders says she resigned from her position, although other reports say she was fired. Now, hopefully I can get her on Night School. She's somebody I know very well. She's a Philadelphian. She has spent a great deal of time at Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books, my bookstore. We've done events together, not together like me and her together, but she's done community events where I've been and vice versa. We've been in the same space. We've shared the same space a lot. She's a wonderful sister as far as I know. I also know Sarah Lomax, who is the CEO and president of WURD Radio. So maybe we get her on too, not together. I know that ain't going to happen, but maybe we can get them separately and have two different but equally important conversations about what went down. But this is an interesting question that speaks right to the heart of Black media. First, it's not surprising that the White House went to Andrea. And this is no disrespect to Andrea. I love Andrea. But she will say, and she said it in her own statement, that she's not a journalist. She is a radio host who became a radio host at the station because of her community context, because of her relationships, because of the love she has for her community. And so she was a natural kind of first-time host, but she's not a journalist and she's not a political analyst. So the White House, the Biden White House, is following its same old tricks again. They're going to people who might be dope. And again, Andrea's dope. There's no disrespect to her. But they're going to people who might be dope, but who won't ask the toughest questions. You know, the Biden Black radio tour is, let's go to the Breakfast Club and tell Angela Yee, Charlemagne, and Embiid that they're not Black if they don't vote for him. Let's go to WURD and ask questions that we send them, which means there ain't gonna be no tough questions in the bunch. And the reason why people noticed it was because all the other Black radio stations were getting asked to do the same thing. And you listen to 4 Biden interviews and 4 Black radio stations, and you hear the same exact question. You go, wait a minute, did they send them these questions? And the answer, of course, is yes. By the way, tell me what you think about this. I'd like to know. Was it wrong for the host to interview the president using pre-approved questions? What would you have done if you were given access to the president of the United States ahead of the election? And those are your options. Now, the White House is saying, well, we never said that reading the prepared questions was a condition of the interview. And that's probably true. They never said that. The White House is too careful to actually say that. What they say is, we're considering an interview with you. We're considering appearing on your radio station. Let us know what you're thinking about asking. Here's 8 questions that we'd like you to ask as we consider if the president of America will be on your FM and really largely AM radio station. And then as you're considering the questions, they're considering you. Hey, we're still considering whether the president, the biggest interview in the history of your station, will come on. What do you think about those 8 questions? You good with asking some of them? Of course you're going to say yes. I wouldn't say yes, but you know, I've been doing this a long time. Would I have said yes in my first year? Yeah. I might have said yes in my 5th year. But then you understand the job and the craft. And if you take this seriously as a profession and as an ethical, moral, and political responsibility, you approach it just a little bit differently. But man, the fact that the Biden administration is doing this, they're going to Black audiences. I don't see them doing this on white radio. They're going to Black audiences and telling them what to ask them. They're like, can you just throw us alley-oop, please? It's shameful. It's absolutely shameful. I understand the radio station's position about saying we can't have people on air who are not going to ask their own questions, who are not going to hold politicians accountable. I understand that angle. But I also have to wonder, you know, did they really not know ahead of time? Did they have no whiff of this? Or is this one of those situations where they got caught or where the host got caught, which then makes the radio station look bad? So they have to act like they didn't know and now they act on it and they get to keep clean hands. I don't know what happened. Andrew's account seems to suggest what I just said. Their account seems to suggest something different. So I'm going to do everything I can to get both parties on this show to get at the truth. But either way, man, what a mess. I don't care so much who's right between the radio station and the host. I'm more concerned about the Biden administration making the offer in the first place. They once again are showing that they don't respect Black media. Joe Biden ain't gonna show up to me, and that's fine. He ain't gonna show up to Roland. Where are the Black media outlets that are gonna ask tough, critical questions? And why ain't Biden there? Will you ever see Biden? No. They want to be asked tough questions. They want to be asked things like, why are you so awesome? Or what will you do for the Black community? That's the question you ask to make it sound like you're being tough, but they really didn't just read their 6 talking points about what they did for the Black community, even if it doesn't really address the issue. We got to hold people accountable. That's the media's job. And the Biden administration doesn't see that, or they don't respect that. So we got to make them respect it. Anyway, we got another story after this quick break. It is about Joel Embiid. The Sixers star center has put on his jersey for the first time as a member of USA Basketball, Team USA, Dream Team like 6.0, or I don't even know how many. I ain't even gonna call them Dream Teams no more. They just Team USA at this point. If Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and Magic ain't on it, ain't no Dream Team. But when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about what it means for him to play for Team USA and why so many people are mad that he's not playing for a different country. Welcome back to Night School. Team USA. And when I say Team USA, let me be more specific. Team USA basketball is back in business. There was a moment where Team USA basketball had hit a lull. They didn't win the gold, and they had to go from the dream team to this lull to what they called the redeem team. And since the redeem team came back with LeBron and D Wade and all of them, they managed to have another powerful streak of international global basketball success. And once again, a lot of people want to play for USA basketball. And this summer is no exception. The 2024 Team USA basketball squad features Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard. We could go on down the list. I mean, who's impressive to you? But one of those names is Joel Embiid, the 2023 NBA MVP and the star center for the Philadelphia, that's right, the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah, I'm going old school with the name. And you would think that this would be a good thing. You would think that this would be uncontroversial. But this is America, and so it ain't. If you look on social media, if you look at some of the headlines, if you look and listen to talk radio, there are people who are saying that Joel Embiid shouldn't be playing for the USA basketball team. They are literally criticizing him for playing for Team USA. The critique, of course, is that he should be playing for either France or that he should be playing for Cameroon, his native country. I am shocked at how ridiculous some of y'all can be. Here's why this criticism is unfair and ridiculous. Let me give you the background, just in case you don't know. Despite having dual citizenship with the United States and France. And to understand that, Embiid sought French naturalization, and they gave it to him under an extraordinary circumstance. And it's not uncommon for Cameroonians to get French naturalization or French citizenship. Why? Because colonialism. But he also, being an NBA player, came to the United States at the age of 14. Joel Embiid played basketball when he got to the United States. He was playing soccer before that. It's the United States where he learned to play basketball. It's the United States where he played AAU. It's the United States where he played high school ball. It's the United States where he played prep ball. It's the United States where he played college ball. It's the United States where he's played in the NBA. And yet, despite that, there are Americans and French people who are calling him a, quote, fraud. They're literally saying that he's being disloyal to Cameroon. And Cameroon has a basketball team. They're actually 4-0 right now. They're competing in the FIBA qualifying tournament, and they're doing quite well. Of course, if they had Joel Embiid, maybe one of the 3 best players on the planet, they probably would be doing even better. They'd be really competitive in the NBA, or excuse me, the FIBA tournament and in the Olympics. They might even compete for a medal with Joel Embiid. We've seen what Argentina can do. We've seen what Spain can do. You only need a couple good players who play well together, and you can make a whole lot happen. But the point is, they're calling Joel Embiid disloyal. Now, let me say this first. If Joel Embiid said, screw Cameroon, I want to play with America, and that would be the end of the conversation, I would probably be critical of him too. This is an opportunity to represent your actual country on a global stage. If you're proud to be from Cameroon, you should play for Cameroon. If you're proud to be from Ghana or wherever, you should, Senegal, Angola, all teams that have fielded basketball teams, or if you're from Spain or Argentina or Greece, whatever, Nigeria, you should play for those countries. You should. I think it's an opportunity to show national pride. It's an opportunity to galvanize your country. It's an opportunity to help nurture and develop the basketball program in your country. I mean, imagine taking Pascal Siakam, Cameroonian, and Mahabute. So he's a little bit over the hill now, but he's retired now, but he's Cameroonian, and you take Joel Embiid. Now, all of a sudden, you got a solid global basketball program. Now you can compete. It ain't the worst idea. I would love for African people to represent African countries and not just play for the United States. I totally get that. But that's why these people mad. These are white people who are mad that Joel Embiid. There's 2 reasons. The people in France are mad that Joel Embiid ain't playing for them. They didn't think he was a traitor when he was going to play for France. The French people weren't like, oh my God, we can't have this 7'2" unicorn play for us because that would be disrespectful to Cameroon. The French were just fine with Joel Embiid playing for France. And the only claim that France should have over Cameroon, or could have over Cameroon or a Cameroonian player, is that we owned y'all. Is that it's part of the scramble for Africa. This is some King Leopold throwback-ish. So please, France, calm down. French fans, shut up. The fact that you're over here mad that he's playing for the U.S., you're not mad that he's playing for the U.S., you're mad that he's not playing for you. You're not mad that he's being, quote unquote, disloyal to Cameroon. You're mad that he's not playing for y'all. Y'all are fighting over which slave, which buck y'all can own. And the fact that you can't own him, France, is why y'all mad. So y'all just be quiet. And then you got the Americans. You got the Americans who are pointing to people like Alvarado, who's from New York. He's Puerto Rican, and he's leading the Puerto Rican team into the tournament. And they're like, he played for Puerto Rico with pride. Why can't Joel Embiid be like him? Why can't he be like the Puerto Ricans who have played for Puerto Rico instead of playing for the United States? Let me tell you something. There has not been one Puerto Rican NBA player that could have qualified for the USA team. I guarantee you that if that if if any member of the Puerto Rican national team, let me not say any member. I don't want to be disrespectful or to their national pride, because I support Puerto Rican independence. I support Puerto Rican liberation. I support Puerto Rico no longer being a colony and a property of the United States. What I'm saying, though, is Jose Alvarado, who played for the New Orleans Pelicans and led the Puerto Rican team right now. If Jose Alvarado had a shot on the USA team, I suspect he would have played for the United States too. I just think we got to be honest about that. So let's not pretend, please. Let's not pretend that somehow the Puerto Rican players of the United States are taking some kind of high road. They just didn't have the option. They just didn't have the opportunity. But I promise you, if they did, you might have seen a similar outcome from Mr. Alvarado or from Carlos Arroyo or from Larry Ayuso and from all these other people who played for Puerto Rico with pride and dignity and who turned up and turned out for PR. And again, shout out to my Boricuas out there. This ain't got nothing, but there's nothing but love for Puerto Rico out there. I'm not dissing Puerto Rico or their players. I'm simply saying, let's not act like other people had a similar choice and like it's apples to apples. Joel Embiid has a singular decision to make. Do I play for the United States or do I play for Cameroon? Again, if I were him, if I were his advisor, I'd say play for Cameroon. But these Americans who are saying, why is he doing it? Y'all are doing it because y'all don't really think he's American. And this is part of the problem in the United States. Y'all are saying he should play for his country. This is his country. He's not an American. He is an American. He has U.S. citizenship. That's the criteria, right? Y'all talk all this about the illegals and immigration and blah, blah, blah. Then when somebody's a legal citizen, they go through the process that he pays a whole lot of American taxes. He pays more American taxes probably in the last 2 years than the people talking about it will pay in a lifetime. Shit, 1 year, maybe 1 month. He's an American. And if he wants to play for the United States, again, I don't necessarily agree with the choice for the reasons that some people are saying. I don't think it's patriotism why he should do it. But he wants to win a gold medal. He wants to play with his friends. He wants to play with his peers. Joel Embiid, his son was born in the United States. His son is a full 100% American. His wife is American. His teammates are American. His friends are American. And he's 30 years old. He spent most of his life in America. So maybe he feels American. But the problem is, and we see this in France with soccer and the African soccer players from other countries who are, as they say, they're French when they win, they're African when they lose. There's a way that some of y'all, no matter how much money he makes, no matter how much he perfects his American accent, no matter how much he smiles for y'all, y'all still gonna say he ain't one of y'all, because to y'all, to be American is to be white. And that's what y'all really mad about. So some of y'all mad because you don't own him. Some of you mad because you can't control him. Some of y'all mad because he's hurting your chances of winning. And some of y'all are mad because he ain't white. All of those are reasons for Joel Embiid to say, screw y'all, and do what he really wants to do. And so I salute Joel Embiid. I'm not a patriot. I'm not going to be out there cheering and crying for Team USA, but I do want to see these Hoopers play. And I want to see what this team looks like on the floor. And I'm excited to watch Joel Embiid play basketball. And as a Philadelphia fan and as a Sixers fan in particular, I can't wait to see him bring home a gold medal and have his first kind of taste of a championship, which will then carry over to next season, when this new 76er squad with Paul George and Caleb Martin and others comes together with a re-signed Tyrese Maxey and Kelly Oubre, when they come together to win the East and maybe compete for an NBA championship. So it's a good time. It's a good year. I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what happens. But once again, the final point, everybody's hating on Joel Embiid. Screw you. All right. Thank you for watching Night School. It's been so much fun as always. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And make sure, if you're so inclined, you hit that join button and become a monthly supporter of the channel. We need your help to keep this grassroots media project going. And if you can't support on a monthly commitment, make a 1 month tuition payment to Night School and to the channel. Go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. If everybody watching right now were to donate $10 for the month, you would allow us to meet our financial goals, which allow us to keep night school going, which allow us to run office hours every week, which allows the Coffee and Books and Classroom and the Cell podcast with Mumia Abu-Jamal to keep going. You're the one who allow us to pay the staff. You are the ones that allow us to edit the footage. You are the ones that allow us to build that new studio. We do all of it with your support. There is not a penny from a billionaire going into this channel. There's not a nickel or even a penny coming in from corporate media. It's all you. And we appreciate you and we love you. Thank you for watching Night School. I'll see you here tomorrow. We got something special for you.